Okay, it's all gone very quiet. That's not delivering any
I'm
value
just,
to
I'm
in
just,
the preamble.
I'm catching up with Discord.
Yeah, so was I. So was I.
Bretney's talking about audio acoustic treatment, which I'm now very jaded about.
In answer to the question about watching the tennis, I wish I was, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
been very hard to watch the tennis this year. Too
Is
much
it?
else has been going on.
I haven't watched as nearly as much as I usually do either.
It's really annoying, isn't it? I hate work.
Used to be a 2-week period where I just sit and watch the tennis. Yeah.
Yeah.
How's Agassi doing?
I think he's due to win again this year. Yeah.
I think so. He normally does
He's
whenever,
won for
whenever
quite
I'm
a
paying
while, has
attention.
he? So
That's
it's probably
Has
his
he not? Is he on a
turn,
losing streak?
I think he plays
lost his form.
quite competitive pickleball now.
Oh, okay.
Well, what's that? Is that Agassi? Running Dak, do you think I could keep on with this quality of broadcasts whilst also watching tennis?
How's the foaming working for me? Badly, Michael dear, and I don't know if it's just because I need to put it all around the room rather than just in this corner, or whether because it's useless because there's a monitor directly in front of me which my voice bounces off regardless of the wall treatment. Either way, not a fan, plus it's all black and makes my studio seem very gloomy, so... Well, I'm glad I did the experiment.
Could you tilt the monitor?
Not in a way...
So
Oh, I see what...
Bounce
So
it,
that...
bounce it up.
Yeah, maybe that
Bounce it
might
round the corner.
that will affect my ability to read the monitor, but
Well, not by 90 degrees.
no, I know.
It's
but
not
still,
pizza.
I don't want to feel like what? Is that what you do with pizza?
What?
Yeah, I'm confused.
Yeah, what?
Okay. Is it just me or is there a lag? I don't know, Peter. One of the two, but I think we're all operating with a slight lag today.
I think all four of us are hearing each other in real time, so I don't know how you're perceiving a lag. If you're, I mean, I was very slow to reply to Michael Deer's comment. I didn't respond to it as soon as it appeared. I, sat with it for a while.
Okay. There's definitely a lag between audio and video.
Oh,
Is that
well,
on
we're
YouTube,
not getting
Nick?
that. Yeah.
Nick, is that on YouTube? It's okay on Riverside.
On Riverside,
That's a bit weird.
we are not seeing that. And we've only got 5 seconds. That's fine. We can go past 1 p.m. And it's 1 p.m.
Okay, what do you want to do? Do you want us to re-record or should we just go for it? Yeah, Riverside has had sync problems the last few
Yeah.
weeks.
I
think
I
we probably
don't
won't
think
solve
there's
it
much
with
we
that.
can do to reliably fix it, so that I vote we just press ahead. And sorry, guys, you'll have to watch on YouTube. Slum it with them.
Or we can just speak half a second later than we were going to speak.
Then our lips move.
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Yeah. Okay.
Hello and welcome to the PC Pro podcast. It is the 10th of July 2025. I'm Tim Danton, Editor-in-Chief of PC Pro. Who do we have today? Well, by golly, we've got Nick Rawlinson.
Hello, Tim.
Hi, Nick. We've got Darian Graham-Smith urging you to move closer to the
Yes, I
microphone.
can barely hear you. It's an audio medium. If we can't hear you, we have nothing. But hello.
Do you know
I
what?
was just turning up the volume because I thought it was my computer not hearing.
No, it's pesky Windows. Honestly, it's. I think it likes to slide me back to 30 when I want to be 50.
Oh,
but
you're the
that's
opposite
just-
to me then.
So anyway, I'll just move closer to the microphone for the next hour. It's fine. I'll just hug it. And as you just discovered, we are also joined by Olivia Whitcroft.
Hello, getting very close to my mic. Yes, you can hear me. Yeah.
We can definitely hear you. So yes, it's quite. I like. Do you know what? I do like how we've got a rotating panel of podcasters. You never know who's going to come up, do you? Could it be Darian 1 month, 1 week? Could it be Roche? Could it be Nick? Could it be Olivia? We just don't know. Well, we know. But honestly, it isn't a surprise to us. Anyway, shall we move on quickly with the first story before I lose myself? Because 2.3 million people have allegedly, supposedly, been affected by a browser hijacker. Darian, you spotted this, didn't you?
I did.
So this is I took it over for the glory. So this is basically a Trojan horse attack. What's happened is that developers release a perfectly legitimate piece of software, an add-on for either Edge or Chrome. In fact, you can use both on either, so it doesn't really matter. Because it's exactly the same Chromium what's it inside engine. Anyway, they released these perfectly legitimate applications or add-ons. For example, you might have a free weather forecast. You could have a video speed controller. You could have, and this is quite a few of them, you could have something to unblock TikTok, or most famously, a color picker extension. So this one appeared. Gecko is called the Gecko Color Picker extension. It appeared to be perfectly fine, and then and it's even got a Google verified badge, so it looks legit. It's got 4.2 star on the ratings. It passes all those kind of eyeballing tests that we all do before we load something. But what has actually happened is that then an update comes along that injects malware. Can I use that as a generic term, do you think, for this, Darian?
Malware? There is no more generic term. Oh, you want to be more specific? No, I think malware is good because it could inject all sorts of nasty things. It could inject ransomware. It could inject a classical virus. It could just inject some nuisance code.
Yes, and what we know for sure is that this malware is tracking what you do, tracking how you browse, it's sending data to remote servers, and it could also redirect you without your consent, which is the curse of any online experience. So yes, that's what has happened, and in total 2.3 million users apparently have been infected. So really, it's probably quite a good idea if you are a user of extensions just to go on and check whether you've been affected. If you Google for KOI, K-O-Y security, and Chrome extensions, I'm sure you will find it, because they have revealed this family, if you like, of problems under the family name of Red Direction, and there are a total of 18 malicious Chrome and Edge extensions. So let me ask you something, Darian. Mm-hmm. Can we trust anybody anymore?
No, the reason is for perfectly understandable and defensible reasons. Almost everything you use nowadays is going to have automatic updates, and so the thing that you buy and the thing that you trial and the thing that you kind of certify as this is safe and known and we know all of its ins and outs, that could just could change tomorrow. You can do a little bit to safeguard yourself by turning off automatic updates, but then you really do need to be on top of, repeatedly checking for the latest patches for all of your software, all your extensions, all your hardware, your smart TVs, your routers, your fridges, and so forth. So it's an intractable situation, really. I mean, there have been cases where a so-called 0 day has spread like wildfire, and only an emergency out-of-band Windows patch, which Microsoft has rushed out, has prevented it from causing a complete meltdown. So if you are manually checking for Windows updates, if you've got that turned off, then you're almost certain to get got by the next one of those super spreaders. So you can't win. Basically, it is a real problem, and I don't think there is, sadly, an easy solution.
Or maybe we can turn to the law, Olivia.
Well, turn to the law that has. There are repercussions. It's a criminal offence to do that sort of thing. But how do you catch them in time before they've affected the millions of users and gained what they wanted to gain from it, I suppose? Yeah.
Well, Nick has the answer to that.
Are there jurisdictional issues here? Because if the person putting out the extension, whichever extension it is not within the jurisdiction of those who are affected, what recourse have those who are affected got? And would they have to really rely on the browser manufacturer or the distributor, maybe, of those extensions to go after them on their behalf?
Oh, that's a good point. So they could have breached, if we're talking about UK or any jurisdiction with the law, they could have breached the relevant law, but how do you go after them if you can't take action against them in that country? So, which does happen a lot. I mean, it depends what country they're in as to whether they'll have their own laws to sort it out or whether you can catch someone out of the jurisdiction. So a very good point. Where are these people located?
What tends to happen with malware is it often comes from, I was going to say BRICS, that's a bit reductive, but certainly Brazil, China and Russia are major centres for malware distribution, because the governments, maybe technically there's something on the books saying, you mustn't do this, but it's not pursued at all if it doesn't affect, if it's targeted at, unfriendly countries, then it doesn't get pursued as a rule.
So we need a technical solution. So we come back to you, technical experts, and how are we going to stop it technically?
This is
Not your
this is
problem.
actually very much like a game of tennis, isn't it? Where we pass the problem from one to the other in a desperate attempt, and I think Olivia has just smashed the ball as a winner there. All right, so what can people do, Darren? What your advice to people? So this only affects Chrome and Edge users, so people using the Chromium engine. However, if you're on Firefox, it doesn't mean that you're immune to this, because it all they've gone for is they've gone for the largest surface area, which is exactly what people always do. And likewise, Nick using his special mix of Linux and Mac, he's not secure either, because this is a way to bypass a lot of the security built into those operating systems. So, Darren, what is the technical solution?
Well, I don't think there is.
How do you protect yourself?
Yeah, I don't think there is a technical solution. I think the best you can do is go by reputation. I think if you don't install extensions from companies that you haven't heard of, then you're less likely to get got. Basically, someone like Google is unlikely to roll out malware because they have a reputation, they have everything to lose. So if you stick with companies that have a good reputation, have a well-established presence, you're less likely to get got by malicious attacks, although of course incompetence can still happen. I honestly think that's about the best you can do. Either go with someone who is huge and reliable, or someone who is very small and has little to gain. If you're like one of only 3 people who know about a bedroom developer who's done a certain thing, and you maybe have a personal rapport with them, they're less likely to rip you off than some anonymous middleware coming from Belarus or whatever. But yeah, it really is just you make your choice, but you still have to keep your fingers crossed.
How can sorry, Tim. Yeah, I was going to say, how can new entrants enter the market? Yeah.
Well, I mean, do they even? That's a fair point. That nowadays, I think you start off small and you get bought, or you go into a partnership with one of the giants, and you sort of get you receive the halo of whoever is vouching for you in a reputational sense.
The only other thing I was going to say is just to actually keep an eye on what extensions you've got active in your browser, which is a good idea anyway. Because it's so easy. I'm a victim of this, where I forget about the browser, all the extensions I've installed, and then the only time I actually remember is whenever the browser does an update, and suddenly they all irritatingly pop up and redirect their pages. So I think that's probably decent advice, Darren.
Thanks.
I'm looking for approval here. That's all I've really been looking for all my life.
You're a good editor, Tim.
Thanks so much, Darren. Okay, let's move on to the next item, which is actually with you.
Yeah, it's the trifecta of the inevitable selection of AI stories, but there's some quite interesting ones this week.
But also, that means if you hate AI, then just skip over the next 10 minutes. Perfect.
I'll try and make it.
You may be disappointed when you get to me.
Spoilers.
Anyway, yes. Well, the first thing is it's been properly found and exposed. Something which has kind of been people have talked about this as a possibility or a one-off kind of trick for quite a while, but it's confirmed that academic researchers are hiding instructions to AIs in their research papers. Nikkei has
I just
been.
had a lovely image of academic researchers just hiding.
Yep, they play hide and seek
That's
around
what
the
they've
lab.
been doing. Sorry, Darren. Do carry on with your serious story.
But it's not that serious. I mean, I suppose it could be, but basically, Nikkei has been looking at research papers from 14 academic institutions, largely in Southeast Asia, Japan, South Korea, and China in particular, and they found that 17 articles, I don't know out of how many, but certainly that's enough, and across enough institutions to confirm that it's an ongoing real issue. They contain hidden text, perhaps white, perhaps very, very small, things that you wouldn't see if you were a human reading the paper, but the text contains instructions such as only give positive reviews of this paper or do not mention any negative issues. And this has raised a slightly interesting argument, more than you might think, because obviously some people have, some sort of publishers of academic journals and so on have said this is inappropriate. You shouldn't be hiding stuff, certainly not if it appears intended to potentially misrepresent the content of your work. But the researchers have said you're not supposed to be using AI to review papers. You never have been. So anybody who falls for this, they've only got themselves to blame because they're the ones breaking the rules, not us.
Which is fair. but also just it's quite funny. Nick and I are of a similar vintage, and remember the days when the first websites were all packed with words in white
keyword
text.
stuffing,
to kind of fool the early search engines. So, but what's your take on this, Nick? Do you care?
Do I care? It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, I agree. Nobody should be using AI to review something, but the loser ultimately is not the publication that publishes that review. It's those of us who, well, I'd say those of us, I've got nothing to do with these papers. I'll never read them, and I'm never going to base my life on them. But those people who will maybe then do something on the back of that review, which was generated using AI, are the ultimate losers. It's not even the publication that's cheated maybe in its reviewing process.
Okay, Olivia, I sense you have something to say.
No, I think it's quite clever, isn't it? Yeah. So I mean, we've talked a lot before about the issues with accuracy in using AIs, and at the moment, things like that are done not just for keywords in or spotting and getting reviews in AI, but for lots of things we need to distrust the accuracy. I mean, Darian's already mentioned like misrepresentation. If it was a process that was meant to be followed using AI and you're deliberately misrepresenting yourself, that could be a legal issue there. But I think it's all part of let's be cautious when we use AI as to the results and how accurate they are.
Okay, which possibly takes us to number 2 in your list, Darian.
It does, yes. Well, I mean, it's a fairly safe bet that questioning the accuracy of AI is it's never going to be far from the surface. But in this case, this is another interesting one. This is Netcraft, who have been doing some experiments with ChatGPT, and they discovered, so the first thing they discovered is that when they said, hey, ChatGPT, what's the website for such and such, Wells Fargo Bank, I think was one example, or, if you say, how do I log into Gmail? Then in 29% of responses that ChatGPT gave were not to the correct site. In fact, I'll go further than that. 34% were not to the correct website, but 29% were actually to dead websites, wrong websites, imaginary websites. This is problematic enough in that it's just bad form, but Netcraft, for once, as far as I'm aware, no one's actually exploited this yet. I had a quick look. It seems that for once the good guys are one step ahead of the bad guys, or at least they were until they published this. I'm sure people are now rushing, but they pointed out there's an amazing opportunity here. If ChatGPT is telling you you can log into Lloyds Bank by going to lloydsbank.uk or whatever, any fisher worth their salt is immediately going to register that site and put up a login portal, because you're going to trust ChatGPT because it's very plausible. That's the danger of AI. And in fact, they commented that on one occasion they asked, what is the URL where I can log into Wells Fargo Bank? And ChatGPT gave a wrong URL, which had previously been not Wells Fargo Bank, but a phishing site. It had somehow scraped the web and identified it, said, hi, enter your Wells Fargo login details here, and gone, that's the one, I'll remember that and I'll tell that to people. So this is yet another reason to be cautious.
Okay, I'm going to pause the broadcast. Well, keep it going, but it's a live delivery. It's my. I thought this might happen, to be honest with you. I didn't warn anybody, but.
For those who can't see, Tim is literally reaching behind him, receiving a cardboard package from an unseen deliverer with just sort of hands poking through the door.
Who could it be?
I hope it's not a phishing attempt.
It's quite extravagant. Okay, this is. I'm not sure if this really works as a podcast thing, but hopefully as a visual medium it works.
It's a live unboxing video.
It is a live unboxing video at last.
It's going to be a reaction video too. Tim's taking out the packing slip.
What can it be? Yes, of course. It's the new book.
Oh, okay. That's reasonably
This is a
interesting.
very subtle advert.
Yeah, it's just holding it up and showing it to the world. Computers. What is it?
The Computers That Made the World is what it's called.
It's a chunky-looking hardback. It doesn't look like it was. No, it does. It looks like a substantial work of reference, I've got to say.
It is. I can
Amazing.
say,
Well done.
I have very much aged during the process of making it. But there's a little timeline for people to look at what's covered. So anyway,
No one can see that.
of course they can, Darian. Anyway, that's exciting, isn't it? A live unboxing of the PC Pro podcast.
How much of it was written by ChatGPT?
None of it, bizarrely enough.
You're a Claude man.
Oh, he's gone.
Tim's actually gone. The book was so exciting. Okay. Well, in the
I
absence
have
of...
something to add to Darian's point there, though, because if I may,
Sure.
my usurping the chair, but he had disappeared. So, oh, he has disappeared. Yeah. So what I was going to say, it goes back to Tim's point on keywords. This actually, because when the keywords used to misdirect people to other people's sites, and there was big trademark issues with that,
yes.
using other people's trademarks to lead them to other sites. So I think this is just the new tech, the AI version of what Tim was saying earlier, misdirecting people to sites, and whether there's trademark passing off issues, unfair competition, that type of legal issues there.
Yeah, it still happens. It's incredibly annoying when you search for the name of a business and the top hit is a sponsored one that takes you to a competing business.
Yeah.
Okay, I am back. I briefly disappeared. I don't know why, but I hope that's not going to completely spoil the recording, Darian.
That's not the thing that spoiled this recording, no.
What are you trying to say? All right, third item, please.
Yeah, now I'm amazed. So you wanted to talk about the browser malware, and then you asked me to talk about Wimbledon. I don't know what's going on with you this week. But it's very simple. AI. The headline is AI blamed for bad tennis calls at Wimbledon, and that pretty much tells you what you need to know. They've just started using electronic line checking, I think it's called, ELC. No, Tim?
Do you know what? I'm just going to take over. Because
you just can't bear the idea of me getting it wrong.
It's almost as if you don't really... do you not watch tennis, Darian?
Tennis, that's the one with the ball, right? Not the shuttlecock.
Strawberries.
That is the one with, strawberries as well. Okay, so no, we've had Hawkeye for a very long time. What's new this year is that they've got rid of all the line judges entirely. And what I find funny about this story is and what then happened is that someone didn't switch on one of the sensors, and so as a result, it missed 3 or 4 line calls in a row. Then it got fixed. And of course, then you get the usual thing, which we've had throughout the years of tennis, of tennis players arguing about the tennis calls and whether it's in or out. So we'll just bypass that because that's always going to happen. But this one was just a particular problem, which was actually a human error, which they've now worked out through their system, so it's not going to be happen again. But anyway, the thing I was going to say. The thing I was going to say is just it's so weird that suddenly, you know how AI has crept into everything, and now AI, and no one has ever referred to Hawkeye as AI in my lifetime until this point, until something went wrong, when suddenly AI is blamed for wrong line calls at Wimbledon. So yes, that was my only comment on it.
Your only comment was the entire story that you made me research. Well, before you let Olivia have her comment, I just want to say the one thing that I did like that you haven't mentioned, which is a quote from Debbie Jevons, the chair of the All England Club, who said, I just love this. It sounds a little bit pained, perhaps a little bit petulant. She said, when we did have linesmen, we were constantly being asked why we didn't have electronic line calling, which I think is a fair complaint.
Yeah, and I think this is the right move. Although I realise this isn't a tennis podcast, much as I'd like it to be. I think it is the correct call, if you'll excuse the pun, because they are just so much more accurate, and human eyes are just not as good as electronic eyes. Even if sometimes because of miscalibration or whatever, mistakes will be made. Olivia, I sense you've got something again.
I wanted to know what John McEnroe has to say about it.
Oh, he did go off on one actually, because I was listening to 606 on the radio on Saturday, and he just, I don't know, he's kind of anti against everything. Actually, he was very negative that program. So I think he's anti anybody disagreeing with him. But he certainly has a lot of sympathy with the players who argue with the line calls. I'll put it like that.
So Andre Agassi is no longer a going concern, but John McEnroe is?
John McEnroe is a commentator. He's now a commentator
now, but he was famous for challenging line calls.
Yes, he threw his racket on the ground and said, "You cannot be serious," in 1,080 sketch shows.
Yes, indeed.
Did he appear on all the sketch shows?
I think it might have been an impersonator.
Only and Kenny Everett ones, I think. All right, let us keep on this AI roll then and move on to Getty Images, etc. Please, Olivia.
Etc. Well, yes, so Getty Images and Data Use and Access Act, because I am personally still reeling with excitement over this new act, which was passed a couple of weeks ago, had royal assent a couple of weeks ago, and there are many, many exciting parts to it. I could probably just take over the rest of the podcast. But one area I thought was particularly interesting because it's running alongside the Getty Images and Stability AI copyright case that's been running in the High Court as well, was the last minute debate on the extent to which the law was going to regulate use of copyrighted materials by AI. So, and less well publicised, there was also a debate about use of personal data by AI. Can you argue that it's research purposes? So that was what I wanted to talk about today. And the High Court case, Getty Images Stability AI, just to briefly give you the background on that. Getty Images is accusing Stability AI of scraping its images and using them for its database to produce new images for people who prompt it to produce new images, and saying it infringed its copyright. Well, it was more than that. It had 3 copyright claims, database right claims, trademark claims, and passing off claims. The trial has now finished. It was trial in the High Court, and before the end of the trial, they actually dropped 2 of their key copyright claims, which was to do with infringing copyright when training their model and infringing copyright in the output of their results as well. And one of the key points, and we've already talked, and Nick raised it earlier today with malware, was a jurisdictional point, and they didn't have enough evidence that that training took place in the UK. The output claim was dropped for a slightly different reason. They said they'd introduce technical controls to stop it happening so much. But the jurisdictional point is particularly interesting because in the Data Use and Access Act, in the final stages, the House of Lords tried to build in something that would clarify that the jurisdictional point and allow the UK law to apply to training overseas and for models that are marketed in the UK. And it ping-ponged back and forth between the House of Lords and the House of Commons and was eventually dropped and replaced with something a lot more woolly to do with economic impact assessments and reports. So we don't have clarity, unfortunately, because the claim was dropped in the High Court and this was dropped within the legislation. We're still awaiting clarity on that point under UK law.
So to clarify, Olivia, so I may have just have missed this when you said it. So, but the reason why the cases have been dropped is nothing to do with people trying to wriggle out of it. It is more a lack of jurisdiction.
For that particular point to do with the training AI, there was a jurisdictional issue to do with whether had it actually got a connection to the UK, had they done the training in the UK. They still, the case continued in relation to certain trademark and passing off claims, and another copyright claim to do with importing the model into the UK. So that we don't have the results yet because the trial's finished, but the judge won't deliver her verdict or judgment for another few weeks yet. So we don't yet have the final judgment on that.
Can I ask you a deeply unfair question, Olivia?
Yeah.
So, how do you think we should fix copyright law?
So
just a small question.
Well, how do I think? Well, the government has been proposing on it. I mean, this is part of what happened in the final text of the DUA Act, is saying the government needs to publish an economic impact assessment on the 4 options that were proposed in the consultation paper. So there are various options, and a lot of them have been criticised from either by the creative industries or by the AI industry. So the favoured approach was this opt-out model, as it was called, that AI could use in copyright materials to train its AI, subject if someone said, no, actually I want you to enter into a license, and the creative industries criticised that, and I think the government since said that's a bad idea. The problem is I can see it from both perspectives, and it is difficult. We don't have a good regime at the moment that envisages the type of actions that AI do. So we're trying to force copyright law as it currently is on what AI is doing, and we don't really know how it works.
And isn't the other problem that we are just one small island in a great big globe? So isn't it completely pointless us trying to do this?
Well, no, it's not completely pointless because, I mean, often different approaches, if it's established in one country and it works, other countries fall in line with that as well. I mean, actually, there have been a couple of US cases recently. There was a Meta case and an Anthropic case to do with authors and reusing books with AI, where the AI creators, Meta and Anthropic, were successful. They said they could reuse, but these were lawfully obtained publications that they were reusing. I briefly want to mention the personal data point as well, because it wasn't as well publicised, but during the course of the legislation, they were also talking about using AI to scrape personal data as well to train its models. And they were concerned that the changes to rules on research, they'll be able to argue that this was scientific research and then subject to exemptions under data protection law. So that was another concern raised by the House of Lords, and that didn't eventually go through. So that's another thing to watch, whether we get changes because of these research provisions.
Okay, and you, well, actually, let me just turn to Nick for his viewpoint on this as a creator himself.
It's difficult. I think I said that in the last question as well, didn't I? At the end of the day, there's a difference between training a machine and training a human, it would appear. I can't just go and take a book from a bookshop and train myself to speak French, even though technically the outcome is going to be very... Case in point, if I wanted to learn all about the computers that built the world, I would ideally be buying your book or finding a free PDF online somewhere.
Well, I should say, I know this is hurting my sales here, but you can actually get a free PDF because it's a charity that I've written it for, Raspberry Pi Press. So they do release a free PDF on this particular occasion.
So you would still be subject to the output copyright laws there if you then reproduced that book and wrote it as your own. But the input concerns, you're right, wouldn't apply because you're not producing copies in your brain, I guess, is the issue.
Yeah, it's. I would say, to add to your, what did you say it was, Nick? What was your conclusion? It's difficult. I will add, it's quite complicated, isn't it?
It is.
But that, I don't know, Olivia. I suppose I just feel like we need to have an agreement across all the major creative nations of where we're working along the same lines. In the same way, we can have agreements on certain things. For example, nuclear proliferation is a good where we do have an accord across most of the world on how we're going to do it. So, is it not feasible to do the same for this global thing?
One issue is we're working from different baselines because the laws have evolved differently in different countries. So US copyright law is different to UK law. They have different fair dealing and fair use provisions under existing law. And because, I mean, it would be great if then we all reached agreement and all substantially changed copyright laws or other IP laws to address with it. But we've got to take into account the existing law, the years of common law and common law countries that need to feed into that. And that I think would be a challenge.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Oh, and also I know, Olivia, you wanted to touch upon another point.
Yes. Oh, yes. So this was very brief. The ICO has launched, the Information Commissioner's Office, which is shortly to become the Information Commission, has launched a consultation to try, interestingly, in relation to enforcement rather than changing the law. So the law on the use of cookies at the moment requires you to get consent in a lot of cases. Interestingly, the DUA Act does relax that a bit. But the ICO is coming from a slightly different angle with its consultation. It's saying, what should my enforcement approach be? Should I actually not enforce the rules where for lower risk advertising is what it's focusing on? So where you're using cookies to do advertising in a non-intrusive way, so not something that's targeting people unfairly or harshly. What should my enforcement strategy be? Because they're acknowledging that the law says you have to get consent, but it may be impractical, and it's stifling innovation is the word that government and everyone tries to use as well. So that's a consultation. If you want to take part in the consultation, it just opened this week.
Okay, so what should people search for if they want to do that?
If you go to the homepage for the ico.org.uk, it's on the homepage at the moment.
Okay, all right, thank you. And Darren, I realise I completely bypassed you. You may have opinions about these past two issues. Do you want to add before you move on?
I've been voicing opinions about copyright since the day you met me and long before, but I won't bog this one down any further, except to throw in my oft-repeated mantra that all of this arises from a fundamental, well, not all of it, but a lot of it arises from a fundamentally unresolved question of what we want copyright for. Is it a pragmatic thing that we have in order to encourage people to produce, I think, useful works is the phrase, which I believe is an American sort of approach, or do we believe it's a moral right that creators have to determine what happens with their creations, the more French model? And unless we can, while those things are in tension, and they very much are in the context of AIs using creative works, then we don't have a solid foundation from which to build up any further principles.
A lot of laws are based on ethical principles, I think, to start with. So.
All right. Well, I suspect we will be back to hear yet more of our opinions on this subject over the coming years, decades, centuries. Nick, the next item is with you.
This is a nice new feature coming to Gmail. It's already, I've had a look and it's on the browser for me. It's not yet on my app. It's coming to the apps in mid-July, and it's a new managed subscriptions feature. The idea is you'll tap the hamburger menu at the top, and then in the menu there that comes up from the side, you'll find something that says manage subscriptions. Click on that. And all of those newsletters that you'd forgotten you'd subscribed to years and years ago, they're all going to be listed in the order of most frequently received. So I clicked on mine today, and Duolingo, not surprisingly, is at the top, reminding me I need to be doing my lessons. But you can then either click on that entry and you go in and you can see all of the unread messages that you've got, or just to the right of it, there's a picture of an envelope with a no entry bar across it. Click that and it lets you unsubscribe on the spot. If that sounds familiar, it's probably because you've come across that unsubscribe feature that appears sometimes above an email in a client. And that, I believe, is based on something called RFC 8058, which is a little marker or a requirement for a marker that goes in the header of an email that literally just includes the unsubscribe link. So it can either be a mail to link, or it could be a link to somewhere on a website that works out where you're coming from and just pulls your name off their lists effectively. So it's something that's building on that. It looks like Yahoo is maybe going to implement something similar because they've also got RFC 8058, and I'm looking forward to it very much appearing in my phone.
Ooh. And do we really think it's necessary, bearing in mind that our eyes tend to just completely skip over the things that we're not interested in by now because we've been trained for the past 15 years to do so? Darian?
Well, Google already segments your mail into important social promotions, etc. I've just tried it out for myself the first time. I'm just looking at it, and my initial thought was, this is brilliant. This is, a wonderful way to take control of my inbox. But then I immediately realised, well, actually, I don't want to unsubscribe from all of these mailing lists. I just wish they would send me a higher quality, perhaps a little bit less often, of email. I do want to hear from, Co-op membership and Fender guitars and well, I don't really want to hear from Nextdoor Coleridge at the moment, but I suppose I have to. But yeah, I just want to get the best of it, and unfortunately, there's no sort of third-party way of dealing with that. If you're going to let them into your inbox, then I suppose Google could use its clever AI to read incoming spam, as it were, and elevate the ones that look good and deprecate the ones that don't. But at the moment, this was very much one of those cases of, oh, wonderful. Oh, no, wait, hang on.
Olivia?
I'm worried as well about being suspicious of the unsubscribe links, and is Google looking at the unsubscribe links and deciding what's reliable and what's not? Yeah.
Is it not the RFC that the unsubscribe links are in the header? And I've got to say, yes, you're absolutely right. That is a major concern. I mean, not that long ago, I think a lot of very dodgy mailers were using unsubscribe links to actually confirm, yes, this is a real person. We can start to hit them with the phishing stuff. But all of the ones which have showed up in my managed subscriptions list are very reputable companies, as I say.
Yeah.
Like
I think so.
I don't think Fender guitars are trying to rip me off any more than just selling me more guitars.
Yeah. I'd actually find it quite useful, I think, the feature, as I say, but I continue to be suspicious if I'm not trusting they're from a legitimate source.
A question from Retro Al, which you may be able to answer, Nick. Can this unsubscribe feature be hijacked?
I would be surprised. At the end of the day, it's wrapped up in... It's a good question. I mean, at the end of the... What it's doing is it's listing all of the emails by frequency. So I would say, Duolingo, for example, was the one at the top of my list. I'd be very surprised if someone was able to break into a reputable company's mailing list like Duolingo and change the unsubscribe link on its messages. I'm speaking with no knowledge there, but it's just that I would be very surprised about that. And of course, it is also managed by a reputable email provider. And I think that Google probably would be keeping an eye on what's going on. I certainly hope Google will be keeping an eye on what's going on. Reading around this, it did say that they're blocking already 99.9% of spam, phishing, and malware in Gmail. So if they can do that, I would hope that they'd also be able to keep an eye on these links.
It doesn't necessarily require them to break into Duolingo's mail server to tamper with the RFC unsubscribe stuff, but it would require a man-in-the-middle attack. It would require somebody to catch the mail as it was traveling from Duolingo's SMTP server to your Gmail and meddle with the contents. And I think this is technically not the most impossible ask in the world, because email, I believe, is still unencrypted in its base form. But you'd really need to want to do it. It would have to be worth your while, because there are much easier ways to spread phishing links than to hijack legitimate emails going to recipients that, of course, you don't control. You just have to to pick on whatever is being sent out. So I think it probably is technically viable, but I don't think it's a likely vector.
The only other thing that strikes me as I go through and look at this myself is that all the ones that I actually want to unsubscribe to in my promotions list filter do not have the unsubscribe option next to them. So what's happening here is that people who are following the rules are making it easier to unsubscribe, but everyone else is basically bypassing it. And shouldn't that be going to spam in the future if they're not complying? Nick, make it all better, please.
Google and Yahoo have actually made a requirement of RFC 8058 on mailing lists. So I believe, or I would imagine, the reason they've done that, and I don't know whether they're doing it already, is that they would maybe inch some of those who aren't playing by the rules towards spam because there's a suspicion that they are spam. I'm guessing most email is graded and it's given a point. And when you reach a certain threshold, you are declared not to be, or an email non grata, and you disappear into that spam bin. I think this would help keep you out of the spam bin.
Okay. All right, thank you. And a Mr. John Honeywell comments on Discord, wouldn't it all be easier if people did certificates on email?
Well, I mean, the managing subscriptions would be easier. The implementing universal certificates on email might be a bit of an ask at this stage.
All right, let us then switch gears and move to the new, all exciting, or is it exciting, Samsung Unpacked event. Which happened, I think it was Tuesday, wasn't it, that it all kicked off. So Samsung has these regular events now, probably twice a year, I think, where they talk about all their fancy new gadgets. And this time we've got I'm going to say a trio. Technically, it's probably 5 items, but let's focus on 3. There's the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And, would you believe it, it's better than the Galaxy Fold 6. Now, I must admit, there's a certain... I'm torn here, because I do think this is the best one. Obviously, it's the best one ever, because they incrementally upgrade, and it's become slimmer. It's only 8.9 mils thick now. The main screen is also bigger. It's gone up to 8 inches inside from, I believe, 7.6 inches last year. And they've also solved one of the big problems that actually affected the Samsung Galaxy Fold series in particular, which was that the opening frame, the kind of the outer screen was too slim. And so we're not really conscious of it, but we're so used to our phone screens being a certain aspect ratio that when they move away from that, and it did for the Fold, it became slimmer, it's actually quite irritating, and it takes quite a long time to adjust to, if you ever do adjust to it. So that's a change. It's moved to the 21:9 roughly aspect ratio, which is closer to what you get on a typical phone. So those are all improvements. What has not improved is the price. We are now starting at £1,899, £1,800, okay? And that's for the 256 gigabyte version, or that you can buy the 512 gigabyte version for the same price at the moment, because they're obviously trying to give it a push. So that is a very it's a high price. Let's put it like that. And then they've also, because they've had in the attempt to slim things down, they've lost the support for the S Pen. Because that requires an extra coating or something, I'm not quite sure, on the inside screen.
That's stupid. One of the best things about the big screen is that you can use it to work.
Darian, I'm with you, and it's probably the thing that would stop me buying it. So there you go. But I think we're a bit weird, and because we both date back to the days of using graffiti on palms and all that kind of stuff. So yes, we are odd people. A lot of people, probably Samsung, looked at that and said, okay, well, actually 0.5% of people actually use that feature, so let's just drop it. They're probably right to do so. So there you go. So that's the number one item. They've also revealed the Z Flip 7. I wish they'd lose the Z, by the way. What's the Z doing? It's not helping. It's already called a Galaxy. Why do we need to have another letter to make it more confusing? Just call it the Galaxy Flip. Anyway. And
they've
why
got the
also...
Galaxy A series and the Galaxy S series, so it should be the Galaxy Z7. And there's well, that's the problem. They have to stick an extra word in to describe what it is.
Yeah, the ZF7. Yeah, okay, maybe, but I think it's quite explained. It's actually quite well explained by the fact it says flip or fold.
Yeah.
You're not going to get confused.
I'm just thinking of like the branding meeting where they said, well, all of our like high-end phones, and in fact our mid-range phones, have a letter. They have a series. We have the A series. We have the S series. We can't get rid of that. And then someone else says, but we have to call them what they are. We have to explain that this is the foldy one, this is the flippy one. And someone said, tell you what, you're both right. We'll keep them both, and everyone will be happy.
We'll call it a camel. Okay, so you got the Flip 7, and this is the new high-end flip phone. Again, this isn't really such a big change from the previous one, and I should probably have said with the Z Fold 7, that's got the latest and fastest Android processor used on Android phones, which is the Snapdragon 8 Elite 4, whatever it's called, Elite 4 Samsung. Anyway, it's a jolly fast processor, and the Z Flip 7 has a slightly lesser processor, and it's one of their own Exynos 3500, 2500, I don't know what it is. Anyway, the point is it's a bit slower, but it's obviously smaller. It flips down. It's quite a nice size. I do see more people use these, not least because they're cheaper. This one starts, I believe, at $999, and that will, again, that's with 256 gigabyte of storage, unless my memory has failed me. But the big change here is that it's got a bigger front screen, so you can do more, view more, and make your life better without opening it up. So that's the other one, and then there's a fan edition, which I would just, I'm slightly dubious for that. Say $849. So normally the FE editions of these things are quite substantially cheaper, 150 quid saving. That is as of nothing. But anyway, that's happened as well. And then we've also got two new Galaxy watches, which I just I feel are probably too dull to really talk about. Their new watches, etc. Now, I bet you that Mr. Nick Rawlinson is an Apple Watch kind of guy. An Apple iPhone kind of guy.
No. I didn't want notifications. So I have a Garmin running watch just so I could track my couch to 5K. And you can set it up to have notifications, but I didn't want it. So it just does time and slowness and steps and sleep because that's all I wanted it for. And I do not want notifications on my wrist.
And do you want a flip phone or a fold phone?
I don't know what I'd do with one.
Yes, well, that is a decent question. So my son, one of my sons, swears by the folding device, and he wouldn't go back. But in terms of the actual usage, I think we're talking about 15% of the time that he actually uses it, and just when he needs to access a big web page to read it, and maybe some book reading and that kind of stuff. So yeah, people do it for that, but they also did, as Darian kind of hinted at just there, they write on it. So that's another usage. Darian, are you taken?
By the phones, absolutely not. By the watches, possibly. I've been a smartwatch aficionado since the debut wasn't called Android Wear at the time, was it? I think it was called something else. I had one of the very first Sony smartwatches, and I have to say the wearable experience, in my view, has been all downhill since then. It's just got more and more. It's got overcomplicated. It's become less responsive. Battery life has got worse. Nevertheless, I'm still constantly kind of chasing that high, looking at every new watch that comes out. So I have to say, 350 quid for a wearable, 400 in fact for the one with a
The
SIM,
classic.
although I don't need that. Yeah, the classic. But I mean, it's too much. It's too much. I'm still on the original Pixel watch at the moment. These things are not good enough to justify that sort of cost, and I don't really understand how any of the stuff that they've launched. Actually, the Fold, the Flip, and the watch. These to me all have the feel of products that they really, really believe that if they just keep on long enough, the market will appear and they'll become profitable. But it seems to me, just based on what I see people using and what I know about what else is out there on the market, these cannot be viable products, surely.
Olivia, can you inject some enthusiasm into this story, please? Well, no, no. Just
Yeah,
what do you feel?
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was always terrified about these small devices, losing them when they're this expensive and carrying around. Even if it's attached to me like a watch. But yeah, terrified. I've got a Fitbit rather than a Garmin that as my watch. But yeah, that's what steers me away from them. However fabulous the features are, and some of them could be useful, I'm just scared I'll lose them.
Yeah, and actually, just to correct myself, I got the order slightly wrong. For the Galaxy Z Flip 7, it's £1,049 for the 256 version, and at the moment it's the same for the 512GB version, but it will become 1149, and that's the maximum storage you can get with that one. Whereas the Z Fold 7, you can go up to 1 TB. All right, okay, so. That's not the hot hardware of the week. Oh no, we're not there yet. Don't stop it, Tim. Let's do nibs first. Okay. Who would have thought we had a dress rehearsal for this podcast every week, and just to somehow we still muck it up? It seems bewildering. Darian, first nib, please.
Windows 11, you can't escape it, and in fact fewer and fewer people are attempting to. It has finally overtaken Windows 10 in terms of market share, according to StatCounter. Only a year ago it was languishing on 29.7%, but as of the start of this month, StatCounter says people using... I think this is of all operating systems, actually. Windows 11 has a 50.24% market share, while Windows 10 languishes on 46.8%. So bye-bye, Windows 10. We barely knew thee.
Okay, Olivia, the next item's with you.
Yeah, so this is a consumer movement to stop killing games, which we talked about this actually last time I was on the podcast with Ubisoft withdrawing a game when users still wanted to use it because they said they'd paid for it and they're withdrawing it, and we talked about the fact they didn't actually own the game itself. But a movement has started since then. This is actually in the UK and the EU rather than the US when we were talking about Ubisoft, to stop organisations, games companies removing games once you've subscribed to them, once you've got a license for them, and they've started a petition in the UK and in the EU which says the government should update consumer law to prohibit publishers from disabling video games and related games assets and features they've already sold without recourse for customers to retain or repair them. We seek this as a statutory consumer right. And as of yesterday, it had 181,022 signatures, which means, well, over 100,000. It has to be debated in Parliament, so it will be debated in Parliament. In the EU, they needed over 1 million signatures for the EU Commission to consider it, and as of yesterday they had 1,292,846. So it looks like it is going to be debated in the UK and the EU as to what can be done about games companies removing these games.
They won't have a monkeys. Judging by any experience I've had watching MPs talk about technology, even this, which is quite a simple concept to grasp, they will still... They still won't understand. Okay, all right. Item number 3, please. Talking about the government. Nick?
Mark your calendars for the 7th of September. 3 p.m. we'll be getting another one of those alerts on our phones. It's a Sunday, so turn it off if you're in church. The phone will vibrate and make a siren sound for 10 seconds. Even if it's on silence, you can suppress it if you're on airplane mode or if it's turned off. But obviously, on a more serious note, this will have implications for potentially vulnerable phone users who have a hidden device in their house, so they can make a safety call to somebody. The thing about marking your calendar for 7th of September isn't flippant. Do turn it off if that phone should not be found. Last time they did this, 7% of phones didn't get the message at all. So it was very much a case of need to try harder, which is why we're having another go. The other problem they've got is this only works on 4G and 5G phones, and we only still have 95% coverage of the population on those networks. So some people are still going to lose out.
Yeah. So all the people. So it's not just about having the phone, isn't it? If you're not in range of a network at the time of the alert, then it may come later when you do go into a 4G network. I can suddenly imagine my train suddenly going at a massive beep when they reach the certain point where there's 4G. Is that what's going to happen, or do we know, or is that something different?
I would guess that's going to happen because it's going to be stacked up there on your account at the server, isn't it? So as soon as you become aware, at the end of the day, this is a safety thing. They want to be able to send these messages out in case there's, a huge flood or a wildfire or a terrorist attack. Just going back to that idea about disabling your phone, you can actually turn these off on phones. So even if you're not in a vulnerable position, you can stop your phone. The government doesn't actually recommend it, but you can stop your phone making these noises. Go to gov.uk/alert/opting-out, all in lowercase.
Okay, thank you, Nick. All right, and also you have got the hot hardware of the week.
I have. This is not particularly hot. No, it is hot. This is not particularly new. This is something I've been using.
These things. You can get heckled for it.
Haggle away. This is something I use almost every single day. I've had it for quite a while. It's a plotter, which obviously is quite old-fashioned. I do a lot of life drawing, and in lockdown, I never really got on with the idea of life drawing online. So I was looking for something else to do, and I wanted to be mixing really new tech, like what we're using now to do the video podcast, with really old tech. So I started doing typewriters. I was typing on these pictures. Each one took about 3 weeks, and I got on frozen shoulder, and that brought me on to other old technologies, including plotters. Now this one is not as old as it sounds. It's still current. It's still made. I'm going to show you in a minute, but it's an A1 Unitech iDraw H device. As the name suggests, I'm going to pick up the camera so you're going to get dizzy, but as the name suggests, it is A1 in size, so it needs its own little dining table in my office. It's running most days, but obviously I stopped it today. I power it off a little Raspberry Pi 5, which is obviously out of focus just for fun, which has got the little M2 adapter on top. So it's got a 1 gig drive on it, which obviously makes it go nice and fast, boots in no time at all, and has no trouble handling fairly huge chunks of data. And I actually don't draw using any drawing tools in it. I mainly use LibreOffice Calc. So for example, the one that I've finished working on this week, this is entirely a spreadsheet. So the way it works is that, as you can see, well, the lighting's terrible, isn't it? But if you'll notice there are red lines in there. Each of those red lines is a division, and there are 40 black lines between each red line. And each time we get to a new red line, it's allowed to stray 25 units. It's irrelevant because this is obviously an SVG, so I can make it as large or as small as I want. So you can stray 25 units left, right, up or down. And then obviously all the lines in between will space themselves out or squash themselves up to fill the space. And what you end up with is very much like a crumpled bit of tartan rug. I've been drawing cats, as I'm quite a cat fan. So I've been using it to assign one of 50 random cats. Again, this doesn't work because of the light. Let me go back. No, look at that. It's terrible, isn't it? White cats.
This is great radio, by the way.
Yeah, of course. People can't see this, can they, if they're listening? Basically, the idea is that... that's rubbish. There we go. The cats can be assigned to random positions, and you will need to do it more times than there are atoms in the visible universe before it repeats. Other little things I've been doing with it is unbroken line image. So there's a familiar lady there, our old queen. And it's just, I've programmed it so that where the image is darker, the horizontal line gets really messed up and down more to fill in the space. And so it's actually just one line that starts at one corner and ends at another corner and fills up the A2 page. The device itself costs about £1,200 if you haven't got it on a discount, but it's almost always on a discount. It's 25% off at the moment. LibreOffice Calc obviously is free. You can donate. And the Raspberry Pi, I think, was about 80 quid. Okay. It's fun.
All right, thank you. So questions are welcome from the floor, but I will just ask a couple have come in through Discord, the live chat. Wondercool. I think you may have really answered this. Really, is it running logo? Asks Wondercool.
No, as I say, I make the art first of all. Well, the cats, for example, I drew on an iPad. So there are 50 cats that I've drawn. I then convert them into literally a series of coordinates I then put on a reference table within LibreOffice Calc, and then I have a completely separate tab that generates the arrangement of cats by pulling random cats out and dropping them into spaces. I then save that as an SVG, which I send to the Raspberry Pi because I'm doing it on a Linux machine over the other side of the room because it's faster. And then on the Raspberry Pi, I open it in Inkscape, and there is a plugin for Inkscape that runs that plotter, and also another one that I've got in the roof, in the loft, made by Bantam Tools, as they are now, but they were someone entirely different who was acquired by Bantam Tools.
We have more questions. What can you print onto it? Can you use? Is it just paper, or can you use fabric?
Theoretically, you could use pretty much anything you want. I tend to use biros. I have thousands of biros in the house, and a huge box of used biros. If anyone's got an idea, I thought I might make a lampshade out of old biros. And I'm using A1 300-gram watercolor paper at the moment, but you could use a paintbrush and a canvas if you wanted.
Okay, so really that's so. Is it sorry? Just the movement. Are we just talking a straightforward up and down? And
No,
is that...
no. I was going to have it going, but I didn't know how noisy it would be. Sorry, Olivia.
I was going to say I'd love to see it in operation, but
Well, maybe I'll do a little video and send it, and you can try and show it to people somehow. But basically what it does is it does go up and down, because obviously you need to be able to lift the pen off the page if you want to move to a space where you want to stop drawing. But you could, once it's down, it can move wherever you want on the paper. So a lot of the stuff that I do, like the picture of the Queen there, for example, that's actually 52,800 individual patterns. But because I squeeze them together in LibreOffice Calc in the SVG that I generate, the pen will never lift off the page between the first point and the last point. So while I say it's an unbroken line, it is an unbroken drawn line, but it's 52,800 segments of a line that it never gives up on until it reaches the end.
How long did it take you to create the Queen?
The picture is from Wikipedia, and the actual generation process depends on what I'm using. So I was using my old Dell secondhand thing that I use for all my writing, which is really old, and it took about an hour to generate the raw data that I could then put into LibreOffice Calc. Because what I need to do is, once I've sliced up the image, I need to look at the level of luminance within each square that I've generated. So obviously it can be a 0 if it's really bright and 25 if it's really dark. So I can then work out how mixed up the line needs to be. But then I did it in the terminal on a M4 based Mac Mini, and it cut the time down to under 5 minutes. So I was really surprised at how technology have moved on in sort of those 10 years. It's very hardware based, very hardware compliant, whatever the word is.
Okay. Any questions from Olivia and Darian? Olivia?
No, I'm just fascinated by how it works. So yeah, I'd love to see a video of it. I mean, it sounds amazing. Yeah, the cat picture reminded me of creating like a big Where's Wally picture. There's one cat different somewhere, and you have to.
There is one cat different. Did you spot it?
Well, I didn't in the brief time, but
you probably didn't, because it's so. If I go a bit further back, it might balance the. Colour.
I saw one with sunglasses, but I couldn't.
Oh no, you can't see it. But they're all black, apart from 2 here which are blue.
Yeah.
And I do have. Other ones that are 2 that are red. This one's for sale, so it's a bit shinier, even shinier. Oh, okay, ignore that. There's 2 red ones in there.
I can't be having you promoting products on the podcast, Nick. That just goes against my whole.
Says he who unwrapped his box.
My whole vision of what we do here. All right. So, Darian, any questions?
Only, I mean, I'm absolutely never one to diminish, creative artistic endeavors for their own sake. But do you have any practical use for it?
No. I mean, I am selling the artwork, so there is a practical use there. There's a gallery.
Oh, okay. Oh, fine.
Fine.
I have to say, it never occurred to me that people might pay for art. So, wow.
Yeah.
No, not yours.
No, obviously. So no, I mean, there are many practical uses for it. They sell a lot of these as automatic writing machines, so they're quite obviously not the A1 size. They go all the way down to A4. But in hotels, sometimes you'll check in and there's a very nice handwritten letter from reception. If it's a very posh hotel on your bed, it's not handwritten. A lot of these are written using these devices, or maybe you bought a signed album, and all the signatures are suspiciously similar to some of the other albums.
This is the thing I've always wondered. One of my fairly early memories was it must have been the early 1980s. I went one day in with my father to his place of work, and they had an enormous plotter. And I remember, I swear this is what I remember. I can't vouch for it being true. That its self-test mode was it printed out a map of the London Underground, and I always thought that was a wonderful thing. And then sort of years later, it occurred to me, what were they actually using it for? What is the function of what did they want this? Not a printer, a much more expensive, much more complicated, much larger plotting device. I don't think they were generating. Well, that's just it. I don't even know what you would generate on it. So,
Well,
I
what
mean,
was
I'm
his-
impressed with what you've.
It depends what his industry was. You know, a lot of architects' offices would like a thing like this. It'd be quite useful for them.
That
You
makes
would
perfect
go and
sense.
get the other plans printed professionally, probably because you need them on scale. But to make a one-off on site, an A1 one-off plan on site is easily done with a thing like this.
Okay,
No,
so
of
just
course.
to bring it back to this device, and if we could set up the votes, that'd be great. So, what do you exactly get for this, Nick? So your $1,200.
For your money?
Yeah.
Well, it's cheaper if you buy a small one. It's more expensive if you buy the A0. I went for A1 purely because I haven't got the room for an A0. I would have gone for A0. But you get basically a box of rails, some motors, a pen holder, and the wiring. And it's very easy to put together. It does come as a kit. The smaller ones don't come as a kit. I believe they come pre-made. You can then buy sort of premium versions, not of this size, that have got a baseboard in them as well. So you get what you see. It's some railings, it's some motors, and some intelligence. And I think for me, the price can be justified by the fact that this is a minority product. Not everyone's going to want one of these things in their house. So I accept the fact that I'm going to have to pay what it costs to make it a profitable and worthwhile product for the manufacturer.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Olivia. Is the Unitech plotter hot or not?
He's sold it very well. So I'm going to go for hot. I mean, I think it's incredible what he's done with it and the examples he showed us. So yeah, I'm going for hot.
Okay, Darian.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen any purpose in owning a plotter myself, but Nick has doubly justified it. First of all, with his very impressive artworks, which are not only artistically impressive, but also he sells them. So double whammy, that's fantastic. And of course, he's finally educated me after however many decades on this planet as to who would use one in a professional capacity. So I cannot say anything but hot, hot, hot.
And we did have a call from one reader, Arnie B, saying, "I want to see a magazine article on this." What do you think? Do you think are you convinced? Is it that hot, Darian, that you would commission Mr. Nick Rawlinson to write such a thing?
You're asking
live
me in
commissioning.
front of Nick whether I'm going to ask him to write it.
Well, I'm not suggesting anybody else writing it.
Well, I will say that, my editor's a bit of a hard ass, and he tends to say we can't have any features that don't have a definite cell on the front cover. So I'm not sure, buy your own A1 printer and produce cat artwork.
Darian,
Maybe.
you did a deep dive on PCI Gen 6 or something like that. I can't remember now exactly. So, do you think that got a place on the cover?
Did it not?
It didn't get a place on the cover. Sorry, Daniel. I hate to disappoint you. All right, we seem to have lost Nick.
Yeah, he's hiding, so you can ask.
I was being discreet for Tim.
Private.
Oh, I
for
see.
Darian.
You were being discreet. Is that how it works? You could have just done that, Nick. Just covered your face and no see me. All right, Nick, hot or not?
Obviously, it's hot.
Okay. How long have you had it, by the way?
This one, 18 months maybe, and the one upstairs in the loft, maybe 3 years. 4 years.
Okay.
Took a long time to work out how to make proper art and money from it.
Yes. Well, I am highly impressed by what you've done, and also your very understated method of selling. I think if this journalism lark fails you, I think you should go into second-hand cars, because I just think you've got that trustworthy face. So it is a hot here, and in the voting, it's pretty even, I'd have to say, but the hots have just nudged it. So there you go. You are up. Your plotter is hot. Your plotter is hotter. Okay, let's move on and say goodbye, because it is very hot in my shed, and we'll see you all again in a week's time. Thank you for listening.
Bye.
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 Olivia, not going to say goodbye.
I did.
She did.
Goodbye.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it. Oh my gosh, it got.
You can listen to it on the recording. It's okay.
Oh yeah, I will.
Isolate the
I'll
track.
splice it together. I will.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll invert the polarity of the neutron phase.
I watched
Right.
Back to the Future again the other day.
Oh, so
Okay.
Good, isn't it?
It's
is
about
the
a guy living 30, 40 years ago who goes back a bit further.
I actually I struggled at the start to get properly into it because it's a very silly film, isn't it? Let's face it. But actually, I did quite enjoy it by the end. I know that there's the people think it wouldn't be shot today because of the kind of the incestuous nature of it. But
Are we talking about the same film?
Back to the Future.
Yeah, him and his mother.
Him and his
Oh,
mother
well-
trying to get it on.
Well, I
his
mean,
mother
no,
trying to get
they're
it on
not
with him.
really. Yeah, okay.
Well, that's why Disney backed out on it. Disney said they weren't going to do it because it involved incest.
Really?
we went to the
Well, they
theatre
didn't
to see
actually
it.
get that far.
No, no, I'm not
Yeah.
suggesting that it was very much a PG film.
Yeah, we went to the theatre to see it a couple of months ago. It was really good. If you
Oh,
The,
did
the
you?
musical version or
The
the?
musical, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
where was that, Olivia?
It's on the Strand. Is it the Adelphi? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It was very impressively done. The DeLorean is done so well. You have to, yeah, I recommend it. And the original songs, usually musicals, you know all the songs, and you don't in this one, but they were really good as well. Yeah.
Nice. I will have to investigate. How much was that? I'm a man of meagre means.
I think so. There 4 of us. I think we spent about £150 on the tickets, maybe slightly less. I think I got a special offer actually. I think it maybe £100, 100 to 150 on for 4 of us.
I'm amazed it was that affordable. I was braced for
Yeah,
a lot
we
of
were
West
right
End
in the-
theatre is
right
like,
in the upper
£150 a
circle.
seat.
Yeah, if you want to sit in the front row, then it's £150
Well,
a seat. You can
even-
get
even
£40.
that.
You can get £40 tickets nearer the back. Yeah.
Well, I suppose one of the advantages of being self-employed is you can go at unpopular times as well.
Yeah, well, one of the emails I have not opened up for ages, and I'm told to unsubscribe to Central Tickets. So I'll have to do a kind of some sort of search to see if that will come up because I am tempted. So there are 4 of you, so presumably children as well.
Yeah,
Olivia,
yeah, they loved it.
yeah. I did.
We showed them the film before, so they could appreciate what was happening having watched the film, and that worked as well. We showed them the set of 3, and they loved them. They're 6 and 8, and they enjoyed it. So
Right, peeps, I've got to go. You don't have to, but
It's okay. We couldn't do this without you, Darren.
bless. All right,
and also,
thanks everyone.
Nick, we stopped talking about plotters now, so Nick's lost interest. All right, bye everyone.
goodbye.
Cheers.
Catch
Take
up
care.
with
Bye.
Penny. Yeah.